Why should you spend about 2 hours in traffic because the roads are inadequate or they are just bad? Well, I just posed or quoted a bit of a question posed by the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiel Atoforsin, to you. And he posed that question just a day after he presented the mid-year budget review, emphasizing the need for the government to spend a lot more on dealing with the country's infrastructural deficits. I'm sure by now you're aware that the John Mahama administration is embarking on an infrastructure project it calls the Big Push, with a $10 billion on that project. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice Adu, and tonight we want to look at whether or not this Big Push agenda is going to deal with the daily frustrations of many Ghanaians because the roads are bad or not good enough, or is it going to be a 9-day wonder, or perhaps like what we saw with other government initiatives that a number of people feel did not meet the need of Ghanaians? I do have on the panel with me Engineer Dr. Patrick Bekoe. He's Vice President of the Ghana Institution of Engineering. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening.
I have on my right-hand side Nana Yao Sapon. He's aide to Alan Tremantin with Movement for Change. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us as well.
Beatrice.
I do have a video call with us, Professor Peter Korte. He's an economist and immediate past director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. He's also a member of the Ghana Association of Arts and Sciences on PIAC. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us as well.
Good evening.
Of course, we'll be joined by video call as well by the Deputy Roads Minister, Al-Hassan Suhini. He's also the Member of Parliament for Tamale North. He'll be joining us very shortly. I just told you what the government intends to do, and I'm sure you're already aware of the years of roads that were declared by the former President Nana Ado Dankwa Akufo-Addo. But right now, let me paint a picture for you what the situation is like as regards roads in Ghana. We do know that the country has a total road network of about 94,203 kilometers. And these roads have been categorized into 3 trunk urban feeder. In case you're wondering what trunk roads are, these are like roads that are considered for long distances. Maybe you may call them the highways. And in terms of the current situation of our road condition across the country, statistics show that only 27% of roads in Ghana are paved, and as much as 73% are not paved. In terms of the quality of the roads that you ply on, 44% is considered good, 34% considered fair, and 22% considered poor. And like I just told you, the Mahama administration intends to construct a number of roads under the Big Push agenda. These roads, some of them are new, others we are told will be completion of some road projects that were started by the SWAL Nana Ado Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration. There will be major bridges and interchange projects as well. I'll just read just a few to you. Construction of a new bridge on the Oti River at Dambai, construction of Swami interchange and local roads. And I'm sure you understand and remember that a number of people in the Ashanti region have complained about the Swami project in Cape Coast of Fankor, which is currently being done. And you recently saw some protests on it, as well as Adenta and many more. You find them on shrinews.com. Remember that we're also streaming live on Shri FM 92.7. Send us your comments. We'll read them back to you. Of course, as well as the situation of roads where you are or you frequent. And I want to come to you, Professor Peter Korte. And there's a Chinese statement which was repeated by the finance minister just some weeks ago that if you want to be wealthy, build roads first. How do you assess the government's initiative of big push under which some roads, like I just said, are expected to be constructed and revamped?
Thank you very much. Good evening to you and good evening to your discerning viewers. It's such a great topic that we are looking at today. But then let me briefly set the context. This big push idea or concept started in the 1940s, where the idea is basically you can't do incremental interventions or investment. There has to be a big push so that there will be complementarities. So investment in multiple areas, multiple sectors that will provide backward and forward linkages. So this big push idea is what we are applying to the road sector at the moment, that we're going to really revamp the road sector. But, one thing that is critical for the big push to succeed is that there has to be a very clear, coordinated attempt at doing this. You cannot just rope in a big push when there's lack of coordination. The big push will also bring in the private sector. It will set the pace, provide incentive for the private sector to engage. So if it's road, then government has to set the pace with incentives for the private sector to come in. And I think the NDC's or the current government's agenda of the big push, the $10 billion, I don't think it has $10 billion sitting in this account recently to spend, but with the hope that it will provide the environment for the private sector to engage with a coordinated approach to revamp our roads. Our roads are bad, as your statistics show. Only 27% are paved. The rest are fair, some are bad. But then there's a history to all of this. Our roads are not we don't construct very quality roads. It's an issue of quantity rather than quality. So as we get on with the discussion, I think we have to also look at this issue of quantity versus quality. But other countries have tried this big push approach, Taiwan, Korea, and they've made some good strides with a big push approach. So for me, I support the idea of the big push. We need better roads. We need roads that will link our food production areas. We need better roads that will connect all the regions, districts, towns, and villages, so that this massive rural urban migration can be curtailed. So we certainly need better roads. But the question is, where do we find the money? The funding is the issue. Thank you.
The funding is the issue, and we'll go into it as well. I'm coming to you, sir, engineer. You're a technical person, and in this field of construction, I'm just wondering how you equally assess this, comparing the initiative with what the previous administration tried to do. And I'm sure you heard the comments of Professor Peter Korte. There are two major points he made: the need for us to have that coordinated effort involving private sector with some sort of motivation, as it were, and also we're not constructing quality roads.
All right. Thank you very much, and good evening to fellow panel members and my minister, the Deputy Minister of Roads and Highway. Let me start by saying that the Ghana Institution of Engineering, which I represent, is also very concerned about the state of our roads, and what the government has brought up is very welcoming. So there are two things: the quality of roads, and how do we ensure that the roads that we construct meet the right quality. And that is where we need right and proper planning, and also the right professionals to do roads for us. Now we've heard a lot from the government and the Minister of Roads and Highway on their plans. From what we have studied so far, I think the strategy of the government is in the right direction. Almost all the roads we've seen in the phase one are actually connecting cities, and we believe that if we do it well and we do it rightly, we will be able to reach the destination that we want to. But The question is, how do we ensure that we get the right or the quality roads for our country? Yes, you rightly said the previous government started something. They actually talked about year of roads for so many years, and we are where we are. Where do we go as a country? I believe as an institution, ours is to ensure that right from procurement of the contractors or professionals, consultants who will be undertaking the design, the construction, we ensure value for money. We ensure that we use the right professionals to be able to design and construct our roads. We believe that as a country, we have the requisite personnel, we have the right professionals, but maybe what we are lacking is proper supervision and enforcement. So for us as an institution, we are calling on professionals to be professionals, the government to ensure that they use the right procurement methods to ensure that all these roads that we want to construct, we ensure that we have value for money. In terms of ensuring also that what Professor Peter Corty said, he talked about the fact that we need to ensure private participation, the private sector to participate. I think, yes, generally over the period, that's what governments have been doing. We've been using the private contractors to construct our roads. What we encourage government to do is that we get our local contractors and local consultants, local professionals to be able to spearhead the big push agenda. So in terms of network, I think from what we have seen as an institution, it encompasses the whole country. And we know that almost all our major arterials, as we speak, they are not in good condition, and this can help us to improve our socio-economic development as a country. So as an initial point, I think this is the right direction we should go as a country, but we need to do it well and do it rightly.
We need to do it well and do it rightly. Let me acknowledge that we do have via video call with us as well, the Deputy Minister for Roads, Alhaji Suhini. Sir, if you can hear me, I know that you've been on a number of tours with your minister across the country, assessing roads and really what needs to be done. Earlier, we heard the Finance Minister, again, a day after the mid-year budget presentation, talking about the government considering 32 roads under the big push. And you, about 3 weeks earlier, you also granted an interview somewhere where you said that about 50 road projects were being considered. Can you bring clarity to us on really what the numbers are looking like?
Well, thank you very much, Beatrice. Let me say good evening to you, your viewers, and my colleagues on the set. There's really no confusion. You know that even if we had 100 roads listed, it will still not be enough to connect the country the way we all wish it to be connected, so that we can drive the maximum benefits from road transportation. Yes, a number of roads were considered at the planning stage, and there was a consideration that the first budget could take about 50 of these roads, but upon consideration and due regard to other competitive, other equally important, expectations of government, it was decided that the first batch be reduced to about 30 roads. But even the 30, if you look at the lots, they are more than 30 lots. So they are really broken down into different lots, which is almost about 50 lots. But yes, the critical corridors cover about 30 of these roads. So it's an issue of planning, it's an issue of prioritizing, and it's an issue of doing what the budget can support, because we don't want to fall into the trap that many other projects have fallen into in the past, where they are started without dedicated assurance of financing. And then a few months after cutting short for the project to commence, contractors begin to have problems because the government is unable to make good its promise of paying for those projects. So if you notice, even as part of the projects that have been captured in the first phase, you realize that some projects that were started like that without dedicated fund source of captured under the big we can be assured of a dedicated funding source to help the contractors to finish these projects, because we consider them critical, and it is important that give you ones that are equally critical, we help to finish these ones that we have inherited, such as the Kaswa Winneba Road, the Ofankor Sawam, and many of such other roads. So the difference in the numbers, 50, 30, can be explained either by the breakdown of the lots of the 30, or also by the decision to face the implementation of the Big Push project.
So you consider, and you've mentioned about 3 roads that you consider a priority. The Insawam road that you just mentioned has been on the spotlight in the last few days. People asking why the contractor
No, Beatrice. I haven't mentioned 3 roads that I consider.
No, I just said you've just mentioned some, and I just said about 3. I'm not saying that you limited them to just 3. But you mentioned in Sawam Road.
Thank you.
Exactly. So I'm
So I mentioned in Sawam, and I mentioned Winneba as the roads that were started without dedicated source of funding, for which we have adopted and put on the Big Push.
Do I get the understanding that these are priority roads as well for you?
Yes, we consider them critical because these are roads that are connecting major cities to the capital. And these are roads that have heavy traffic, that also have economic impact on the people who live in these cities. Yes.
And that leads me to my question, which is that in the last few days, we've had the Insawam Road being in the news and people questioning why the contractor has kept so long. Are you able to tell us when, for instance, that particular stretch, within which time you've been given that it will be completed, or at least it will be made more trouble for people who use it?
Well, I do know that from Sunday, the contractor has been actively working on improving the portions that have deteriorated over the period. I mean, the contractor obviously had to slow down work on the road, and eventually almost vacated from the site, like many other contractors across the country, due to non-payment. I think that contractors are a special group of patriots in this country, given the lengths that they go to sometimes pre-finance these projects, especially in cases where there is no mobilization paid. I always marvel at the risk that they take to raise funds to, mobilize to site and to pre-finance projects, and sometimes without even knowing when payments will be made at all to them. So across the country, what we are faced with are projects that are either delayed or abandoned by contractors because of non-payment. And the ministry, like my minister has repeatedly said, is saddled with a debt of over 21 billion Ghana cedis. And remember, this is a ministry that has a budgetary allocation of sometimes less than 3 billion Ghana cedis. So you can imagine how difficult it has been since we had to convince some of these contractors to return to runs that they will be paid, given the quantum of debt that is on our books and the allocation that they know we have. But thanks be to God and the vision of His Excellency President infrastructure agenda, which this year has been dedicated to the road sector, has come as a big relief, not only to the ministry, but also to contractors that are on some of these critical roads. And it is the reason why we took the pain to get Parliament to approve the dedicated source of fund, in this case the ABFA, to the big push agenda, where funds from the ABFA will be directly allocated to fund some of these critical projects. And I heard you make reference to that profound Chinese saying that if you want to get rich, you first have to build roads. Indeed, roads are a catalyst for economic transformation. And at the basic level, you can even see it. I mean, in our communities, when we live in those communities without good motorable roads, opportunities to do business are limited. But every time the road in front of your house, the road in your community gets a facelift, you begin to fail to count the number of shops that just spring up, the number of businesses that spring up. I mean, that is a basic test of how roads actually serve as a catalyst for economic transformation. And it is the reason why we identified some of these critical roads that didn't have dedicated source of funding in the first place, and absorbed it onto the big push program. And it is the reason why, as we speak, Beatrice, we have been able to advance some money to this contractor on the Nsawam Road, and he has since been on site actively working to improve the bad sections. As far as I know, since Sunday, he's been actively working on the portions that people have complained about in the past. And I'm sure within no time he will improve it, yes.
Has he given you any assurance as regards the time the entire stretch perhaps will be made motorable for them? That's the question I asked earlier.
Well, I think that the contract has a timeline. The contract was initially supposed to have been handed over somewhere July 2024. It got extended to May this year. But unfortunately, because of the financial reasons and other legal challenges, we are unable to hold the contractor, to that strict timeline of handing over the project this year, because it was supposed to have been handed over May 2025 after the last revision from 2024. But we all appreciate the real problems that each side is faced with, government and the contractor. And we are working on a new timeline. But what is reassuring is the fact that he's back on site, fully mobilized, with some appreciable financial resource advanced to him. And I believe that it will take the work a long way.
But indirectly, what you're saying is that you don't expect that the road will be done this year.
We have to be realistic. If a road that was supposed to have been handed over in May could not be funded for the most part of this year, if we have only made funds available this month, we obviously need to revise the completion date of the project. And I am not able to speak to an exact timeline as we speak, but it is our hope that the contractor, given his capacity, will fast track the work, and it will be exciting to have him finished by December.
All right.
That is not the timeline we have given, by the way.
I will come back to you, Alhaji Suhuyini, but I want to come to you, Mr. Yaw Sarpong. And just to find out from you, really, how do we move beyond the rhetorics and ensure the work is done? I mean, under the big push alone, we heard the finance minister again at that media budget presentation that we are considering about 5,000 kilometers of road. And I read to you the road network, over 94,000 kilometers, and about just 27% being paved.
Beatrice, thank you. And good evening to my senior here and to Alaji Sunyini and Prof. Sunyini was not summarizing because he attended Ghana School, a school in the north called Ghana Secondary School. They don't summarize.
I don't know how he will respond to that.
Yeah, no, we are rivals. But to dealing with the issues, we need to be able to identify what the problems have been. Fundamentally, there are three major issues that we identify. Number one is finance, and number two is the engineering styles that we have, and number three is the issue of maintenance. Okay, so we've gotten to a point in time where we need to be able to look for ways and means to consistently, sustainably finance the roads infrastructure and almost every infrastructure sector that is in this country. Now, any country that is determined to change around or to turn around the economic fortunes of its people would need to deal with the road infrastructure. Because now, whether you want to turn around the economics through agriculture, you would need roads from the farms to the market centers and to your harbor. If you want to turn around your economic fortunes through industry, that even makes it worse, like what we want to do now. It means that you would need to deal with the roads from your farms that that actually contains about 70 to 80% of the raw materials and resources that you need to feed your industries. You need to be able to deal with the roads that goes to your industry and the roads from your industry to the market and to the harbor. So that is very fundamental. And how do we go about this? I think it's always been borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. But if you did have a comprehensive read through the Great Transformational Plan, we had suggested three fundamentals. And I think that Ghana Institute of Engineers, we presented a copy to you.
Yes.
And during before the elections, when you brought up together all the political parties, and we made a very comprehensive submission at your end. We said that, number one, we could liaise with the Bank of Ghana to raise bonds. All right, we liaise with Bank of Ghana to issue infrastructure bonds with attractive yields. All right, and this is going to help finance the infrastructure projects.
But we already heard the president say that we'll get a lot of our monies coming from petroleum sector.
Oh, yes. But, I mean, at the end of the day, how do we go about it? It's not going to be for free. If just the petroleum sector alone cannot support it, these are other alternatives we have. We also had suggested that we provide fiscal and non-fiscal incentives to the private sector for them to be able to invest in the roads infrastructure. How are we going to do this? If you go to other jurisdictions, I mean, if you go to the Dubais and you go to the Texases, where all of them, these men have gone to study and they are back in the country, you see a 6-lane, 10-lane roads, all right? Then you would have about 2 of them that has a towing system. Yeah. You have about 3 that do not have a towing system. Yeah. If you want to drive and get your destination faster, you would use a toll. Yeah. You would pay, you go. If you want to be in traffic and then drink your tea in your traffic and listen to news, it's for free. But at the end of the day, what happens? You find out that most of the people would want to use the towing roads, part of the roads, and get home faster, get to their businesses faster, because time is money. And we had also suggested that we would have to look at the towing regimes that we even have. Okay, there are most of the roads, especially the busy trunks, the one you call the highways, that we can tow. I mean, if you're using... we have, I mean, unfortunately or fortunately for us, Ghana's situation is very attractive. Why? Because you have all these trucks from Togo, from Burkina Faso, you would have all these trucks from other Ivory Coast and other places using our roads. And they use them for free. I mean, I know that they will talk about the other monies they pay, but realistically, they use them for free. If you get to a place like Tamale, the roads that were constructed by TSEC, they've lasted for some time, but at the end of the day, you do not see any towing system on that road. We can make some monies from those places. Now, when we talk about the re-engineering, Ghana has grown. And I say this with all apologies to our engineers. We have been in this country, we saw the population grow. And I will tell you that they have not reviewed their drawings.
What does that mean?
Let's be honest with ourselves. My dear, you have been on the road since your secondary school that you started seeing stuff. Have you seen any re-engineering on our road systems, apart from the interchanges that we've seen in recent times? No, we have not. If you look at the drainage systems that are by the roadsides, the sizes we had those days are still the same sizes we have. So if you're looking at moving forward, then we should look at re-engineering our infrastructure, our road infrastructure. We should look at the modernity in which Ghana is moving, the cars that we are using, the trucks that are coming into our system. We should look at the climate change that is happening and then re-engineer our drawings and other things to suit the current moment. All right, so I don't see why we should be 10 years back. We should still have 2-lane roads in major cities that the traffics are very high. All right, because I know that when you are talking about re-engineering, you also be looking into the traffic management systems that we have. I mean, you look at some of the roads that we have, very beautiful roads just behind the Palace Mall, the bypass, you know, behind the Spintex.
And I'm sure you see what's happening around the Spintex road, or what you call the Shiashi road, connecting with the Tema motorway.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, see, so if you look at what is happening there, anybody who is seeing Ghana in the next 10, 20 years will tell you that probably they should have sat down to do some proper, you know, drawings to accommodate the fast-growing population that we have. We're even thinking that because it's going to be a modern road, the engineers were going to push for them to have these bus lanes and all of that on the roads. But what happens? We are not seeing them. And so these are things that we need to look at. Now, the very last one that I would want to deal with has to do with the issue of maintenance, okay, and quality for that matter. You know, when they have issued contracts in Ghana, engineer, you have the people you call consultants.
Yeah.
They are supposed to play a supervisory role.
Yeah.
I can hit my chest to say that 90% of them do not do the work they are being paid to do. Because if you look at the quality assurance of our routes, there is nothing to write home about. And yet we would want to blame the politician. I know, today we are sitting here, we are having a discussion. In the next 2 years, we'll be blaming my brother Suhini. Meanwhile, Suhini is leading what I would call the policy direction. The engineer seated here, who is part of a consulting team that is supposed to play a supervisory role, is the one supposed to do the quality assurance work. They are paid to do that. And yet you would find a road that is constructed and in less than 6 months. Okay, I'll give you an example. Teshi, Lekma Road. Just get to that place and you will notice that a road that is freshly constructed, they are still cutting the roads, and I don't know in heaven's name what they are doing on that.
They are still cutting the roads, and
so let's have a clear cut. And sometimes we want to blame the politicians, but no, the politicians is not supposed to be blamed. We have engineers, they are playing supervisory roles and all of that. They are supposed to do the work. We are calling for a national dialogue on this, so that we would have the engineers who are the technical men, we would have the road users, we would have the politicians who are spearheading the policy direction. Then we would sit as Ghanaians. Then we would dialogue and discuss the matter. They called us. We spent, how many hours did we spend there? Almost 4 to 5 hours having discussions. I'm yet to even get a copy of the report.
You're still here on Agenda on TV3. We're talking about whether or not the big push really is the solution to the country's road infrastructural deficit. I do have on the panel with me, of course, via video call, Deputy Roads Minister Alhaji Suhini. I have the man you just watched talk, Nanaya Sapon, who is with the Movement for Change, Professor Peter Korte, who is also with us via video call, and of course, Engineer Dr. Patrick Bekwing, who is Vice President of the Ghana Institution of Engineering engineering. When we come back, we'll look at how to ensure that the monies that are dedicated to fixing roads across the country are used for that purpose, and what to look for in terms of constructing quality roads for the country, and whether there's even a need to change the kind of roads that we have in Ghana. Stay with us.
At Academic City, we are not just students. We are problem solvers, innovators, and future-ready leaders. We power the future and create groundbreaking technologies ready to tackle real-world challenges head-on. In a world driven by technology, we shape the digital landscape, transforming challenges into opportunities. At the core of strategic thinking and decision-making, we thrive in the dynamic realm of commerce. We evolve into leaders who not only speak, but stand for what's right, forging narratives and stirring the conscience of the world. Embark on a journey with us, where innovation meets education. Academic City, educating future-ready leaders.
When the
And you're still here on Agenda on TV3. My name is Beatrice Adu, and tonight we're looking at fixing our bad roads in the country. I want to come to you, Professor Peter Kote, who is Immediate Past Director of ISE and an economist. Prof, if you can hear me, one of the things the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasia Latofosin, talked about was the fact that although Ghana passed the PFM Act 2016, it looks like we haven't respected it, such that we have different institutions going into contract and bringing them to the Finance Ministry to make payment. How do we ensure that under this big push program, where the government says is dedicating about $10 billion into infrastructural deficits, including roads, we're able to manage the resources as we should, so that what needs to be done will be done?
Right. I think you really hit the nail on the head. I mean, how do we ensure value for money in this road infrastructure? We've had too many bad roads. We have so much money spent, and we're not seeing the value. I mean, a lot of bad roads in our country. So, if you look at the budget statement year on year, you find the word the gift miss system. So basically, there is an online system where all payments are supposed to be made and tracked. Unfortunately, we find this off-budget spending. We find MMDAs spending outside the give me system. So it makes it difficult to track. It makes it difficult to really ensure that there is value for money. So if you ask me how this can be done, I think it sits very much with the finance minister to ensure that all the ministries, they draw their funds from the Ministry of Finance. So he has the mandate, he has the ability to crack the whip and ensure that DC, CEOs, all of them do the needful to avoid waste. The road ministry and everybody that is involved would ensure that the funds are not dissipated. My second point is about the need to avoid political patronage. You see, I was quite happy with the comments by the last speaker. He made very useful comments. Nevertheless, he said, politicians should not be blamed. You cannot absorb the politician. You are both the technocrats and the politicians are culpable in where we find ourselves. If you give roads, you give road contracts to a political crony, to a party faithful, and they don't deliver, you don't blame the technocrats. So it's all a bit murky sometimes. Well, that's how we don't find the delivery. I think competence should be the first priority. If
Prof,
we
sorry
assign
to
roles
interrupt
to competent
Let me take you back. You're saying that if you give contract to party cronies, is that what you suspect has happened with road, contract over the last years, the reason we're where we are?
Oh, yes. I mean, the evidence is there. Some of the roads were given. I mean, I heard the president of the Association of the Road Contractors or something say that you could find us one contractor having about 30 roads assigned to him. Why would that be the case? So I think if we allow competence, we assign roads to people who can undertake the job and also distribute them fairly. We'll be able to get good roads. Of course, the supervision is very important. As the last speaker said, if the consultants don't do the needful and we sign certificates, we approve certificates, then we have all these bad roads being constructed. I have seen Accra-Kumasi Road since infancy. Every year we are constructing Accra-Kumasi Road. The roads remain bad. Why is that the case? When you visit other countries, you find decent road being constructed and it works. My last but not the least is the need for public-private partnership. If we want to ensure that these funds are used judiciously, let's involve the private sector. Let's have public-private partnership. Unfortunately, we haven't done well with PPP. The road tolls have been taken away. I mean, we've made it free for most drivers, commuters. So if now you want to reintroduce toll, there may be public backlash and all that, but we have to be bold enough to introduce public-private partnership. Introduce the tolls, electronic tolling system, not the manual one that will create congestion. We also have to invest. You see, if we don't invest in the road tolls, we don't invest in the tolling stations, and we construct these routes, we cannot pay for them. So I believe there are a couple of things we have to do to ensure value for money, ensure that all the funds that are being allocated go to support very high quality roads. I like the idea of the big push. I like the idea of constructing roads, because roads are very important. But the need for value for money is very critical. We have not been very much, we have not done very well with that aspect.
The need for value for money. And I'm coming to you, Alhaji Alhassan Suhuyini, for some answers to the questions or the statements made by Professor Peter Quartey. He's concerned about value for money. And I want to ask you how you intend to do that. One road being constructed several times, and yet thousands of cedis, if not dollars, are spent on that same road. How do you ensure that? You're muted, sir. We can't hear you.
Forgive me. I appreciate the concerns that have been raised by Professor Peter Quartey and my very good friend from the Sanarago JHS. He knows himself. I appreciate the concerns that they both raised, especially in relation to the responsibilities that we all have, either politicians or non-politicians, when it comes to ensuring that we deliver quality service and leadership to our country. I don't think that it is one over the other. We are equal partners, and we each have the good that we bring on board and the worst impulses that we allow to overtake us sometimes, that we all have to check. I mean, yes, the engineers must play their role professionally, and the politician must also guide through policy the engineers to do what they have been taught to do, or what their knowledge expects them to do. But having said that, when it comes to the quality of roads, we need to understand that sometimes it is not so much about the quality, but it is also, it has something to do with maintenance as well. Because no matter how well a road is done, if it is supposed to last, say, 10, 15 years, it is considered to be so because of the kind of maintenance regime that is, made part of the whole management of that road. So where you take out maintenance, a road that should have lasted 10, 15 years may end up lasting less. And what can even make it worse is if you do not check overloading. And that is why axle points, axle units, axle centers are critical and important. Unfortunately, over the years, these axle stations have become cash cows for political agents and, unfortunately, some technocrats as well. And it has therefore become difficult for it to be used for its intended purpose. That is to ensure that vehicles on our roads do not overload. And Beatrice, is so sad that I have seen videos where neighboring country vehicles actually overload from our ports, drive through our roads to compromise the integrity of the quality of roads that we have done. But when they get to the border of neighboring countries, such as Burkina Faso or La Côte d'Ivoire, they actually have empty trucks meeting them on the way to shed off the load into these empty trucks because the neighboring countries do not tolerate overloading. And we are in competition, so to speak,
So whose
with these
fault is
countries
it?
when it comes to the quality of roads. That's why I said that it is about shared responsibilities. Yes, it is the fault of those in charge of the system, but those in charge of the system are made up of politicians and technocrats, and they have put these axle stations in place to do the work of protecting the integrity of our roads.
So you take responsibility for the lack of respect on our roads, even by foreigners.
I don't understand.
You're saying that when they come to Ghana, they do anything, but when they go to neighboring countries, they respect the law, as it were. And I'm asking whether you're taking responsibility for what people, like you said, including yourselves, have not done to ensure people respect our laws.
Well, I'm saying that this didn't just start in the last 6 or 7 months since I came to office as deputy minister. I'm saying that it is a shared responsibility, or if you like, irresponsibility, on the part of both politicians and technocrats who have been in this sector all this while. It's still persisting, but it is a problem that myself and my boss have decided to tackle head on. And you realize that unlike before, since we came into office, we have not, asked any of these workers to go and leave the stations for new people to take over. Because like my boss puts it, over the period, it has always been like changing one set of thieves with another set of thieves. We have been engaging stakeholders and thinking through the problem so that we can come to a solution that is long-lasting and that is more impactful. We have come under heavy attack, Beatrice, from even our own party members who think that, we should just ask people at the axle stations to move so that they take over. We have resisted these takeovers, and we have been working with this, with the engineers and the technocrats in the ministry to find a lasting solution. But I'm saying that when it comes to quality of roads, Beatrice, and the duration it should last, it is about maintenance, and it is also about overloading.
Let me ask you.
I'm telling.
Forgive me, sir.
I'm trying to tell you what we are doing with the overloading. Then I can tell you also what we are doing with maintenance.
We are running out of time, so if you could summarize it for us, sir. No, okay, I'm just saying that you can make the point, but if you could summarize it for us, because we are running out of time, so I can get the final word of the other panel members.
I'm sorry about that. So with maintenance, for example, you realize that we have introduced a new road fund bill, which is going to allow the road fund to be properly governed now. The governance structure will improve. And it is also going to introduce an element of equity when it comes to sharing, a sharing formula that will send money to almost every district, like the District Assembly Command Fund operates, to undertake maintenance regularly. And with that in place, improved governance, equity, and improved monitoring and supervision, we are sure that road maintenance will be prioritized at the ministry. With the big push projects, we are also ensuring that we train more of our engineers. So we are paying attention now to our Koforodia Training Center so that our field officers who will supervise these projects will be up to scratch. They will be top notch, and they will ensure that the right things are done for us to get the best from the investment that we want to make as a nation.
I'm asking you this, and I would be grateful if you could answer in 30 seconds because I need to hear the rest of the panel members. We know that $2 billion have been dedicated for the big push every year. How much of it is going into roads, and how many roads do you anticipate, for instance, could be looked at within the next 12 months? In like 30 seconds, sir.
So we are sure that the allocation this year is wholly for roads. And we also expect that next year it will, if not all of it, but majority of it again will be allocated to roads. And that is why we find it a duty to ensure that we do not fail, because we are suspending the construction of schools, we are suspending the construction of hospitals, just so that we can build roads that will impact the economy and impact lives in the future. So we cannot afford to fail for this sacrifice that the nation is making for the road sector.
Engineer Patrick Bequin.
Thank you very much. Let me thank the minister for laying down the points that I initially wanted to talk about. Thank you, Honorable Suheni. It is important.
Thank you, President.
As Nana said, they met us last year. But we've had a chance to review almost all the political parties, their manifesto in relation to road development, and we understand the issues as an institution. Let me put it across that the government is talking about big push, but the minister will allude that beyond the big push, they are doing other maintenance activities within the Ministry of Roads and Highways, and we are aware of that. So they are still maintaining existing feeder roads, urban roads, and maintenance could be the basic things that you are talking about, desilting and all those things. So the big push is not doing all roads, because you were talking about the length of roads, but dealing with critical roads. That's the very first thing. The issues you talked about when you talked about designs, we've updated our design standards. I think there are a lot of things that you may not be aware of that considers even climate change. So design standards have changed. But I think the linkages between design, construction, supervision, and payments, because if you've done a good design, you are even doing construction, and mid-construction, you are not being paid, and you stop, and the rain comes, and the contractor has left side, automatically it affects the quality of your pavement. The Honorable Minister talked about the effect of overloading. So those are enforcement issues that we need to deal with. So I believe that as technocrats and as this thing, for professionals, we need to be professional. And that's why the Engineering Council exists. And the Engineering Council is there to help us as professionals to stay on course. The professionals in the ministry, the professional consultants, and very soon you get professionals that are being punished for doing the wrong thing. I think over the period, what you've seen is that a lot of professionals, you don't see them being punished. But I think this is more of a message also to the government that they need to publish their strategic plan so that the entire country understands the whole strategic plan, what they are doing within the road sector. Because this year we are saying 30 rows or 40 rows, and people are worried, what is the maintenance strategy? What is the funding strategy? Prof talked about funding, PPP, tolling. Government is doing something about tolling we are aware of.
If you could wrap up for us.
Okay, we're doing something about tolling, but the funding mechanism are things that we need to look. So I think It's a good start. We are happy with what the government is doing at the moment. It's actually in line with your political party's agenda, and we need to support it, but we need to be cautious, and as professional engineering body, we will monitor whatever the government is doing, and if we have anything that is wrong, we will come back.
We'll come back.
And tell them. So that's what we will say for now, and we look forward that it will succeed so that the socioeconomic development of this country we will achieve it. That's the country we want.
I'll come to you very shortly, Mr. Sapon. Let me just read about 2 messages from you. Prince Henry from Koforidua says, the Accra to Insawam Road has become a national security threat. The past government has spent money on something else, but I can assure you that NDC government will fix it. He's also saying Suhum to Koforidua Road is very bad. There is Nana Yao, good evening, Beatrice and your panelists. For me, any new major road must be in 4 lanes with 1 predictable for bus lanes, looking into the future, and a few more of your messages coming through here. But let me get your final words in like 45 seconds.
Beatrice, I think that I'm pretty much excited with the responses by engineer, and I look forward to meeting them again for us to have a relook at what they have gotten, and I hope that they credit us the movement for change and the great transformational plan for the strategies we're giving them. But Beatrice, the NIB, the National Investment Bank, was established in the 1963. Now their main mandate at the time was the financing, was development financing. And when we talk about development financing, then we are talking about the financing of infrastructure and industries. I think that it is time probably the government would have to
The
have
finance minister said that he has already spent some money investing into it.
No, they've given them some money, but are we able to bring them back from just doing the salary loan thing to doing proper development financing, where we would have that focus? Because maintenance is no cheap work. Maintenance is a lot of money. And if you want quality infrastructure, it takes a lot of money. There should be a dedicated bank to that effect.
We'll have to end it here, unfortunately. Hopefully, we're able to get some more later. But thank you very much for joining us on Agenda tonight. My name is Beatrice Adu. I've had on the panel with me Engineer Dr. Patrick Bequin, Vice President of the Ghana Institution of Engineering. I've also had with us Alhaji Al-Hassan Suhini, Deputy Roads Minister and Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Professor Peter Quarte, economist and immediate past Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, and of course, we've had with us as well Nana Yao Sapon, aide to Alan Tremantin Movement for Change. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on Agenda tonight. My name is Beatrice Adu. Join us again next week.
This is Hot